Take a look at this massive crowd. We are just minutes away now from the St. Jude Rock and Roll Marathon. This is your look from Sky 5 this morning, and this is a big one. This is the 20th year of the race, and this year's theme is bringing the fun to the run. So let's go down to where all the fun is starting this morning. News Channel 5's Matthew Torres is at the starting line. And Matthew, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a runner right now, like our Jennifer Krauss right there. Got to be some nerves, got to be some excitement. What's going on the ground?
Well, actually, we have the national anthem happening right now, so let's just tune into that for a second. All right, guys, so that was just the national anthem, but we got to bring in Jennifer Krauss. Adam, that's why you're working, because she is out here working the road. 11 years.
Thank you, Adam.
11 years.
Yes. This is 20 years for the race. So for the first couple of years, I was back at the station. You know, we were covering it, and I got so caught up by the excitement. I've been running this ever since. It's a great event.
Last question, does it get easier for you, or does it get harder?
You know, it's hard to say. This is my 11th year running it, and I told myself I was going to be just relaxed and chill about it and not get worried and nervous about it. And then you get here and you get caught up in that energy, that race energy, so I am starting to get a little nervous.
Okay, well, I'm sure you're going to do just fine, just like the other year. So I know it's about to start in like 3 minutes or so. Good luck with everything. So we'll toss it back to you, Adam.
All right, fantastic. We'll check in with you again soon, Matthew, as they start. This is, again, a live look at Sky 5. 30,000 runners down there, prepped, primed, and ready to go. 3,000 volunteers it takes to pull this thing off. And that's nothing compared to the 100,000 spectators lining the course right now to cheer these people on. We have local cheerleading squads out cheering all these runners on, and it's really just such a community event. So many people rallying around this great cause of St. Jude and raising money for the patients there. Chris Conti is high above it all in Sky 5. We want to check in with him, and I know White Eka is, of course, the front runner of this. He's won 6 years in a row, and we're all paying very close attention, Chris, to see if he's going to take the 7th year.
I remember last year, Adam, when I was just about to finish the half marathon, and I was coming around the corner, about to cross over the river by Nissan Stadium, running the half marathon, mind you, 13.1 miles. And all of a sudden, White Eka comes up behind me, running 26.2 miles to take off and make his way down into Shelby Bottoms. That's how fast this guy runs. It's unbelievable. His body size, his body mass index, I mean, there's no fat on this guy. He's just pure muscle. And he's so nonchalant about it. It's not a big deal to him. There have been so many years in the past when we have been down there with him after he's won a marathon, and I've asked him what's the first thing he wants to do when he gets home, and he says he wants to eat a bowl of Fruity Pebbles. And this guy doesn't even really train that well, which is almost maddening to folks who are out there doing this every day, just pushing their bodies to the limit. But again, it is so much fun to have a guy like White Eka in a race like this. It just brings another level of competition, of fun, of camaraderie, because you know that there's a local guy who is up there trying to win this race. What we are looking at right now are some of the folks in the wheelchair race who are getting ready to take off. They will, of course, be some of the first folks who are going to start this race. They are usually some of the first folks to finish as well. And then right behind them, Mark, if you want to pull up just a little bit, we can start to just see this massive sea of humanity, of folks from all over Tennessee, from all over the country who have come in here. We talk a lot about this race and why it's so popular. Part of the reason why so many folks come here to run this race is because it's a good qualifying race for a lot of other marathons, for the Boston Marathon, for the New York City Marathon, for the Chicago Marathon. This is, even though it's a pretty hilly course in the beginning, it's also a pretty fast course. So folks will come out here, they will run this marathon in hopes of qualifying for another race somewhere down the line. Even at the expo when we were there, gosh, look at all these folks. This is just unbelievable to see from the air. When we were over at the expo on Thursday, some of the folks who were getting bib numbers were saying it was so important to make sure that people had the right IDs and right licenses because they just want to make sure that people are actually running with the numbers they have, because this is such a popular qualifying race. Matthew has been talking a lot about the confluence of how this is kind of overrunning with the draft here. Of course, we had to move this start back because of the draft down on Broadway. Something else that's a little interesting about what they've kind of done to merge these two events, there's a lot of St. Jude heroes, some of the kids who have made it through their treatment, their cancer treatments at St. Jude's, and the NFL has actually brought them in to announce a couple of the picks during the draft. So some of these kids who have been through a lot actually have gotten to take part in the draft as well. So certainly a lot of people who are in town for the draft, a lot of folks who are in town for the race. I'm hoping that if you're watching this from maybe your hotel room and you're in for the draft, get outside and cheer some of these folks on. They could certainly use your support. We've been talking a lot about the weather. This is just a perfect day to run a marathon or a half marathon. A few years ago, we were pushing almost 80, 90 degrees at the start of this race. Race officials were so worried about people overheating and dehydrating that they pushed the start of the race up to 6 o'clock. This was 2 or 3 years ago when we actually started at 6 in the morning, just so that they could get folks off of the course before the heat of the day. Not the case today. We are barely pushing 50 degrees right now at the start of this race, and this could not be any more ideal for these folks. Of course, once this race starts, they're going to get a little bit of momentum here as they head down Broadway. It's a little bit of a downhill, and then they're going to hook a quick right over onto what I believe is 4th or 5th. It's hard to keep track these days because we move this race around so much. Of course, years and years ago, even back when this race started 20 years ago, we used to start up at the Parthenon. No longer the case. Race officials, when this was back called the Country Music Marathon, decided, well, if it's called the Country Music Marathon, we should start it down where country music is. So let's move it to Broadway. So a few years ago, we moved from the Parthenon down to Broadway, and now it's probably one of the most spectacular parts of this race, if you've ever run it, is the fact that you get to just run straight down Broadway, past all the honky-tonks, past folks who are, quite honestly, still there are some folks who were stumbling out of the bar last year at 4 in the morning when we were getting ready to set up for this race. So, again, we're running a little late here. It's 7:18. We should have started about 3 minutes ago. There are a lot of different things at work here. Of course, Metro Police and different city officials, OEM, are out having to close some roads, making sure there are final preps along the race course here, especially in the areas where it crosses over 40. They've had to shut down some on-ramps and some off-ramps. I don't know exactly what the delay is here, but you never know along the route there. They may still be trying to finish up closing off some of these streets. Again, we are just watching here, waiting for these runners to move up. Basically, what you're going to see happen here, as soon as these wheelchair runners or racers go, is you are then going to see, it's almost astonishing to watch, you're going to see the first corral kind of just push their way right up to the start line. All of those folks are going to stand there and wait, and then they're going to get the go-ahead here to start this race. I'm looking for some movement here, and I can't really, it doesn't seem like anyone's in a big rush. Mark, you want to pull back just a little bit?
Hey, Chris, and I do want to ask you, Chris, can you hear me okay, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Okay, about these corrals, if someone is not a racer, or if they're not familiar with how the marathon system works, walk us through the corral system. One thing that surprises a lot of spectators, it takes a long time for all these racers to even start.
Exactly. So what's going to happen here is people are segregated into different corrals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 20, 30. And so this is a staggered start. Some races, the start gun goes off and everyone just kind of takes off at the same time. This is a little different. So they will let the first corral go. They'll wait maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then they will let the second corral, third corral, fourth, so on and so on. And basically what that does is it ensures that maybe the folks who are a little bit faster, it gives them a little bit of space so that they can spread out. You will see, as always, a thinning of the herd here as the race begins. Folks kind of start to move forward. Typically, what usually happens, especially if you're watching from the pace car, there's always one or two folks who maybe will start the race up with White Eka, who are just thinking that they can run maybe a little faster than they actually can, or just trying to stay out in front and then fall back.
Okay, Chris.
So the corral system here, go ahead.
Thank you for that look. We need to jump in and take a really quick break before those wheelchair athletes take off. So thanks for your coverage. We're going to check in with you again soon, and we'll see you right after this break. And just like that, you are looking live at Sky 5 this morning. The wheelchair racers are taking off right now. That starting gun just went off as those wheelchair racers crossed the starting line for the St. Jude Rock and Roll Marathon. This is the beginning of a huge, daunting journey for these athletes as they have worked hard, they have trained, they have prepared to take on what some consider to be a pretty tough race course, as Nashville is known for its hills. But in addition to those hills, it's also known to be a pretty fun course with bands all along the route. We have 32 stages. That's a stage less than every mile, several out there. We have about 50 bands out here. 100 speakers are going to be out at these things. And at the end, the big prize this evening, Dierks Bentley will be performing as the marathon, the big performance there. And what's cool is this is a full circle moment for him because he was at one of those smaller stages just a few years ago, back in 2003. Now he's headlining the event. You see right here from the starting line, that is White Eka, a local teacher in that light blue jersey. He is set to take off. He's won the past 6 of these things. He's looking for his 7th St. Jude Rock and Roll Marathon win. He's also a track coach. I was talking to him yesterday on Twitter. He said he was at a track meet last night with his students. That's how he was preparing for this. And this morning, guess what he had for breakfast? If you feel bad about your bacon or whatever, don't feel too bad because he had 2 bowls of Lucky Charms and he said he was going to crush a Pop-Tart before this thing started. So there you see the elite runners lining up at the start line of the Rock and Roll Marathon here in downtown Nashville. This is at 8th and Broadway. This is the 5th year in a row that this race has started at Broadway. They've had to move that start line back this year because of the NFL draft in town. They've been coordinating together and it's really just added to this huge crowd, this huge weekend that we're having. We want to get right down to Matthew Torres. He is live at the start line to see how everything's going down there. The energy is just electric right now, Matthew.
No doubt, you just heard it right there. The elite runners just started this marathon. You saw White Eka there in the front, hoping to make it his 7th win today, but we have a lot of folks out here cheering them on. You can see all of them right now. A lot of these folks, not just here from the country, but also from across the world coming here. One of the elite runners being from Sweden, as we saw earlier this morning. Again, that is just the first corral. That is the folks, again, the elite runners. And now you got the second group of folks now lining up as a lot of family members and friends are also on the side. Some of them with signs. It's really just that energy that we continue to feel, and it's just exciting to see them, all the hard work that they've been going through. Even our very own News Channel 5 Jennifer Krauss, she's running the half marathon. She is back there also waiting to start this race. Again, just a moments ago, we saw the start of the full marathon and half marathon get underway. So again, these are the second group of runners getting ready to take that. Now they are, as Chris has been talking about, the route going downhill on Broadway before making their way around and back up. You feel that, you hear that? She is exciting, she is energetic, and it's electrifying out here. We got even some of the cowbells. Yeah! They're counting down right now for the second group of runners. 1, go! Yeah! So we will be sticking out here for a few more moments, but eventually we'll be going to the finish line where hopefully we'll see who wins this full marathon. Again, Scott White Eka, the Hendersonville teacher and coach, hoping to make this year his 7th win after winning 6 consecutive years. And folks, a lot of hard work and dedication put into this, months and months even of dedication just to prepare for something like this. A lot of folks saying Nashville is a great city for this marathon, and certainly this is a great start for it, as a lot of folks with signs. Actually, I want to show some of the signs here that we do have. What do we have here? I know you're from North Carolina.
We just don't want anyone to stop because we're watching.
Talk about pressure. So that's just one of the signs and one of many signs I'm sure we'll see this morning. We'll send back things to you, Adam.